Hi. Yeah, I have to say that I was really excited about the masterclass last week and really appreciate those who were able to attend. And through that masterclass, I was able to determine that what I really want to do is launch a membership site. That's what I really want to do. If I had to put words to what my heart's desire is, because somebody actually asked me why a membership, and the point to this is the best answer I have is the fact that years ago, the number of people that I was working with, and it was a lot of Amish people, but other clients also said to me, because of what I'm doing with oils and what I'm talking about with oils, I should hire people. I should have apprentices. I should be teaching people this, because what happens when I'm no longer here? And it really got me to thinking. And the truth of the matter is, I feel like you deserve the opportunity to do this for yourself. That's really what the mission of Revolutionary Aromatherapy is. And I understand that this is the Be Remarkably Healthy page, but it's all encompassing. And so my heart's desire is for all of us to be able to master our wellness. That's how I want to say it. My heart's desire is for us to master our wellness. And there is another way to do it than our current model, which is about fixing the issue and not looking at the bigger picture. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with symptom relief. It's just a matter of fixing the issue, and this is where we stop. And what I'm suggesting with the way we want to change the way we're using oils to accommodate your body's needs. And at this point, essential oils are as crucial to our well-being as oxygen. Let me say that again. Essential oils are as crucial to your well-being as oxygen. Now, if you're here, you're more than likely using them, and that's awesome. The thing is like, hey, Nancy. So yeah, using oils is actually very critical to our well-being, and it's as essential as oxygen. And so that's the point that I wanted to bring to the table today, is we don't talk about them at that level. We're looking at them as if they are some sort of just add-on. Hi there, it's good to see you. I hope you're having a good day. It's an add-on, it's the bath and body thing, and that's the reason why I am really proposing that we look at this in a very different way. And so, as I said, so the current model that we have is about fixing, but we don't look at the bigger picture. When we actually come into it looking at, well, what do we really want to embody? How do we really want to experience? How can we master our wellness? Because the body's wired to do so. And that's why I wanted to pop in here. As I said, if history repeats itself, then we are in the perfect position. This is the most opportune time, because we can be the catalyst for the next generations. This includes whether we have young children. So there's a lot of fun things that came up during this masterclass that I've kind of thought on, and I thought I would share them here. So the first one was in regards to the Black Plague. And you may or may not have heard me speak of this before. I know that I've touched on it in other videos. We're here because somebody in our bloodline survived. It was a plague that took over 70 million lives, and consider the fact that in the mid 14th century, which was like I think right around 1340s, we didn't have as many people back then. So 70 million people was quite a wipeout. But the people who survived were the ones who were picking flowers, the ones who were Ring Around the Rosie. That's actually what that poem is about. It's about the people who survived the Black Plague, because they were carrying the petals. And scientists have been able to go back through all of these genetic tests that we are providing them, meaning the saliva tests. They were able to determine, and this started back in the late 90s, to really study the human immune system, human genome period. But what they were able to determine during that time frame was a massive significant change to the human immune system. They referred to it as an imprint. This comes straight from the scientists who started the original study. There was a significant imprint that occurred at the time of the Black Plague. And what this indicates is that there was a significant change within the epigenome. That plague was enough of a tension and stressor that ultimately bodies started changing in order to survive. Now, this isn't suggesting anything other than the fact that the folks that they were able to identify as the majority of those who survived were the ones who were carrying these roses, specifically rose petals. That's what the posies were, ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies. That's what it was. It was the roses. And that's history. That's our history. This is our history where our bodies actually adapted without any human influence. We had, they were doing herbs, they were doing everything they could, but there was everything they tried to do to fix it. Oftentimes people didn't survive it, but those that were not, that were off doing work, picking the flowers, those are the ones that survived it. And there's a very valuable message in that, which is the body's ability to adapt and be well when we don't focus so harshly on the immediate issue. And so this is not, again, about anything that's currently going on in our world, other than the fact that our children are in a position right now where their future health is going to be significantly compromised if we keep coming at it as just fix the problem and disregard the bigger picture. But when we come at this with a revolutionary aromatherapy methodology, now we have the opportunity to work with them, help teach them more specifically. And I'm going to say more about that in a minute, but it's an opportunity to actually teach them, whether they are our immediate children, even if they are our adult children, as well as our grandchildren. We're giving them something that they can actually build on and have a healthier future, have a healthier adulthood. This doesn't disregard medications. This goes in complete alignment with medication. So this isn't about either or, this is about integration. So that was the first part. The next question that came up during that masterclass was, in fact, about vitamin D. And it was a great question. I did a video on YouTube, and I actually did a reel for it yesterday on Instagram, because I got to thinking about it. And one of the things that I mentioned during this masterclass is that if the body produces something, there's a reason for it. It's not a mistake, and it's not a defect, and it certainly has nothing to do with mutations, as we keep calling them. There's a purpose to it. So for instance, aromatase, which we link to breast cancer, prostate cancer, and actually now even autoimmune disorders, that aromatase actually has a purpose in the body. It helps to regulate cortisol. When cortisol, it's going jacked up, and it actually, and the way that works is that the aromatase starts to change and produce steroidal hormones. This is the reason why we start to see an elevation in more of a toxic form of estrogen, right? The ones that lead to these other cancers as well as autoimmune disorders. So, but the fact is that the body also produces its own natural aromatase inhibitor, which is your progesterone. But if your hormonal system is dysregulated, then what you have is a body that's producing inflammatory chemicals, and it's not. So you're going to have lower progesterone, and you're going to have what seems to be elevated estrogen, and it's for this reason. But aromatase does have a purpose, and again, the body is designed to produce the inflammation and then reverse the inflammation. See? Aromatase, progesterone. That's what it's designed to do, and I find this absolutely fascinating. So there are ways that we can actually help regulate that, because we are in many respects in chronic stress mode or stress response. It is a protection mechanism. We can't deny it. It's something they've been talking consistently about now since about 2012. So that said, when we talk about, like I said, cortisol has both inflammatory as well as anti-inflammatory. It produces the corticosteroids, which helps to reduce inflammation when under certain circumstances. So again, this regulation just this regulation of inflammatory, anti-inflammatory. But the other interesting fact with regards to vitamin D is we have this mindset that it's supposed to prevent depression and really great for the immune system and bone health. And years ago, I got some pushback on this one when I was actually working in a naturopath's office. I was an independent, but I was still there, and people would come in and they'd tell me, you know, they would list out all these supplements, and calcium was always on there, and I've done videos on this too. But for one thing, the American Heart Association has come forward and said that the United States, the population of the United States, is epidemically high in blood serum calcium. What, you know, it's like borderline, and I've seen plenty of blood tests where it just shows, it's like, you know, we have this silly scale, pardon me for saying this, but it's kind of silly within normal limits, right? So you can be kind of like more towards the low side, but more towards the high side. But as long as you're within that range, you're within normal limits. And I've seen a lot of people on more towards the high side. Well, the purpose or the reason for that is because you're not using vitamin D properly. It's not being transported into the cells as it's supposed to, because vitamin D assists with the transport of calcium into the cells. Now, what's interesting is that calcium has a dual purpose. Now, granted, we don't produce it, but when we consume it, it has a number of purposes, and one of those purposes is to activate the immune system. So when we're taking calcium, and I ran into this a lot with women who were pregnant and were getting cramps, you know, muscle spasms, and they were being told that they were lacking calcium. Well, what they were actually, and I was told the same thing actually, I would get these horrible Charlie horses, and they would try to get me to eat Tums because it had calcium in it. But I tried magnesium, and magnesium actually worked wonders, and I didn't have to worry about it. But what happens in the body with calcium and magnesium is these two offset each other. So they work in tandem. So there's multiple roles for all of these minerals and these vitamins. But with vitamin D, if you test low on vitamin D, that's a good indication right there that your hormonal system has been dysregulated. It's a hormone the body makes. And we already know that about the sunshine. You can also get some sources from food. But we're being encouraged to take more and more vitamin D. Now, the question that was posed was, well, with everybody recommending taking vitamin D during this current outbreak, what, you know, are we hurting our hormonal system? And the answer to that really is, in many respects, yes. And after I was asked that question, and see, I get nervous answering that question because it comes against mainstream thinking, and yet it is actually continuing to disrupt the hormonal system. Now, if you live in an area where the light is kind of, it's not back to where you're not full sunshine yet, just because of the latitude that you are, it might be to your advantage to wait a couple of months just to allow the light to come back to begin really working with this. In the meantime, there's steps you can take to nourish the liver and add oils to actually facilitate this. However, it is continuing to disrupt it, because once you take something, my philosophy is if you take something the body's supposed to make, you've just continued to create that dysregulation, because you're basically sending a message to the body. Don't worry about it. You don't have to make this. I'm just going to supply it. That can be said for melatonin. It can be said for CoQ10. There's a number of supplements that are on the market right now, including vitamin D, that are marketed as good for our health, and they are good for our health as the body makes it. But if we keep taking it, and the reason why it gets recommended, like for medications, I'm going to say the one, for example, with CoQ10, is because, so this is again part of the reason why these are recommended is if you're taking it with medications, oftentimes these medications are depleting, or they're actually using up those sources, so you have to replenish them at a higher rate. So this would be one reason why a lot of the physicians are recommending these supplements. So this isn't to go against a physician, this is simply to, and if you are taking medications, then my recommendation as a professional would be to stay on the supplement and do other things with oils to, again, take the bigger picture into consideration, because there's going to be the chemical levels are going to vary throughout the entire body, because your body's having to adjust and accommodate for what it's no longer needing to produce. This is why I've seen many people take melatonin to sleep, and then they need to take more, and then they start finding themselves to be more anxious. So there's a number of reasons why you want to include oils. As I was saying in the beginning, they are very critical to our wellness, because they're helping to offset a lot of dysregulation. When it comes to vitamin D, Though, again, if you can get into the next couple of months and then get yourself off of it, there's a couple of things with vitamin D. It is fat soluble, which means if your body's not going to use it, it's going to get stored in the fat tissue. So it's not excreted immediately, again, if it's not being used. The process with vitamin D is not only do we produce it, it now needs to be transported into the cells. Now, here's an interesting fact. When cortisol is amped, and it's producing more of an inflammatory response in the system, it inhibits the VDR. Now, the mindset with that is there's something wrong. There's something wrong, it's defective, it's turned off that gene, right? Well, there's a purpose to this. And the purpose is, to me, another exciting fact. This is where I just love the human body because of its abilities. And so with that said, because it's being inhibited, is because vitamin D also regulates the production or the release of cytokines. So your body cannot distinguish the difference between a viral threat, a bacterial threat, chronic worry, a troubling phone call. It doesn't know the difference. This is where partnering with our body is so vital to be able to begin to be able to implement other steps to help. What is the word I'm looking for? de-escalate that stress response, because we have that ability to do that. But that said, it's not going to fundamentally change everything in this case when it comes to vitamin D. But the point is like if we're taking a bunch of vitamin D and we're putting it in, and it's either being stored in the fat tissue, which now is going to be released at some point as well, you have higher levels of vitamin D. The calcium isn't being pulled into the cells. Now you have calcium activating the immune system, and you have vitamin D signaling the release of cytokines, and it's a transcription factor at that point. It's actually telling the body to release something because it's not able to get into the cells. So this leaves me wondering, what is it the long-term effect of taking all this vitamin D actually doing to people? It's a question, it's a hypothesis. I have no answer for it, but it leaves me wondering, there's got to be another way. And that's why nourishing your liver, eating as wholesome of a diet as possible, making sure to include foods that have vitamin D, and getting yourself out there. You don't have to spend a lot of time outside. If you're fair-skinned, 5 to 10 minutes a day, early in the morning before it's burn time, is plenty. You want to expose your hands, and you'd want to wear don't want to wear sunglasses. We actually produce our own sunscreen when you don't wear sunglasses. When you wear sunglasses, you're more prone to get sunburn because you're blocking the sun. I mean, it goes back to what I was saying. If you give the body what it's supposed to make, in this case, block the sunshine from coming in, we don't make the sunscreen. So the body to me is just a fascinating, and I don't want to call it a mechanism. It's an organism just like everything else, and we get to live inside this body, and we have the ability at this point to really make a difference with the way it's responding to the world, and as I started in the beginning, to master our wellness. So that's the story about vitamin D, and I know there was something else I was going to say about it, but I can't remember at this point. So I'm going to continue on to the next part, which was the question about children and adults, and if I thought it would be better, our children, the question registered with me was, if we get to, are we ever too old to use essential oils? The answer is no. I do feel like a child's body is going to be far more responsive because they haven't been on the planet as long as we have. They haven't been reacting to life as long as we have. They haven't endured the pardon for lack of a better word, the shitstorm that a lot of us have gone through. And at the same time, they are tragically being affected by the amount of chemicals that are being infused into our environment, and the escalation, emotional escalation that the parents are involved in, whether it be financially, relationship, work. It doesn't make any difference. The chronic stress reactions of the parents will impact that child. In fact, Dr. Bruce Lipton, I need to add this book to the reading list for the membership and for the masterclass, but and included in the membership, because what was I going to say? because I want to do I want to actually include talks about these books. And so the book that I'm referring to is, oh my God, I just drew another blank. The Biology of Belief. Sorry. The Biology of Belief. So Dr. Bruce Lipton wrote The Biology of Belief, and he is an endocrinologist, and he actually commented about, and referenced that at one point in his book about the impact while still in utero of the parents, both parents, not just the mom, but both parents, because when one is having an emotional reaction, it's going to be affecting the other. So the emotional environment that we are born into, and then of course the findings of scientists with regards to the amount of chemicals that have been added. Our children are coming into this world already compromised. We're finding out that through the study of telomeres, their telomeres are already, they're being born with shortened telomeres. Their lifespan is already being shortened just from the exposure to everything. So this is another reason why we are at a pivotal point in history, because we can change this. Yeah, there's some things happening to their systems now, but they stand a better chance because, again, their bodies haven't been nearly as exposed. But here's the other really cool thing that I'm writing a book, and the book is about self-love, the force of love, the power of love. And I don't mean this in any romantic way. I'm talking about as a life force. And it does start with self-love. And I dove into some things around the brain. I've countless years of psychology that included brain development. And one of the things that has been determined is that the neocortex, and I love this because I think it was Aristotle that actually said, give me the child for 7 years and I'll return a man. Now, oddly enough, this gentleman, Mr. Aristotle, had no clue about the human brain. He was just through observation, and that's one of the things I love about our ancestors, is we observed so much and we were able to distinguish many things which make truth today. I mean, even the things that, good example, Roman chamomile. It's made up of angelates. Primarily, the primary constituents in Roman chamomile is angelates. Well, angelate is a form of angelic acid, and of course, angelic acid is a derivative of the word angel, and angelic actually means worthy of angels. So today, today meaning in today's world, I mean, it actually is like being hugged by an angel if you think about using Roman chamomile. It really brings a sense of peace. And they were talking like this about Roman chamomile years ago, and they didn't have any idea what kind of chemicals were in this. So I find it interesting that today our scientists actually named them that, because I don't know why. Again, that's one speculation I don't want to jump into at this point. But the point is that I'm getting at is they knew a lot. And with Aristotle's statement about taking a child and returning a man has a lot to do with the neocortex. The neocortex is our executive functioning. And for the first 7 years, it's only developing. And it's unable to rationalize. And so what I've determined is that basically, although we can see the difference between an adult and child, we are two very different species. Because as an adult, we have this executive functioning, we can make decisions, we can rationalize. But when you have an adult talking to a child before the age of 7, they're sensing their world. They can't rationalize. Even though you're talking to them, your words are not making sense. They're picking up on the energy that's coming at you. So let's just say you're in a grocery store line and your daughter asks for something and you say no, and you start to say things, but you're agitated because you got other things going on. The agitation is what's going to be picked up on. And this is going to register in the cells. This is going to register because it's going to register as like, ooh, I did something wrong. Ooh, there's something going on here. We interpret, as children, we're interpreting. But again, because it doesn't feel good, it's triggering that stress response. Okay, it's just an automatic reaction, and now we've already started shifting. This is what's actually registering when they say cell memory. This is what's actually registering. So by introducing children at a very early age to oils, helps with their ability to, through their sensations, and helps to counter It actually creates that, it bridges, technically they bridge the gap between the adults and the children, because although the children aren't still going to really understand what your rationalizations are, they're not going to have the emotional reactions. And to me, that's significant when we're talking about introducing oils to them, because we have the ability to change their future to the degree where they're not going to have all these reactions going on, because all we're doing is reacting. So this is why revolutionary aromatherapy, and why I'm so super stoked about it. And I just wanted to share that here today. And as I said, we decided to launch this membership. Nancy, you and I need to talk offline about that for sure. But I wanted to, because you and I had started a conversation before this, and I wanted to just jump in with you at some point. But the fact is that we've launched this membership. It's a founding member, and so I'm going to extend this invitation to those of you here on this page, that if you'd like to be a part of this, a founding member of this membership, then comment below, and or you can message me privately, because I can go into the details. And if you'd like to have a private conversation with me about this, I'd be more than happy to. It's an amazing program. Like I said, it's going to contain, just so you know, it promises to fundamentally change the way you approach your body. You're going to have more confidence in your body. You're going to have more confidence speaking to your healthcare professionals. It's really going to bolster your health and really have you feeling good in your skin and being able to manage, no, I don't want you to manage, I want you to actually feel the, I have messages now, I have got notifications coming in, sorry, I got distracted. Just feel good in your skin, because like I said, my goal is that I don't want to teach apprentices, I want to teach you, because there is a big world out there, and we've got a lot of children that deserve a brighter future, and you guys are the beginning of that. So we are at the perfect we are at the perfect spot on this timeline in our world. So that said, comment below. Oh, before I go off, 2 pre-recorded videos a month with downloads, PDFs. I'm also going to host a live Q&A with any questions that come up. We're going to have a community of support plus real-time guidance with me. And as we go through this, I'm going to also have guest speakers. And like I said, or mentioned earlier, I really would like to have a reading list that we can actually have discussions on these books, because I think it would make huge impacts on the way we work with our body and understand this magnificent organism that we've been gifted. So with that said, thank you so much, Nancy. I appreciate you being here, and I hope you guys just have an absolutely wonderful evening wherever you are, and I will see you soon.